Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of Football Theory. I am lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, and pleased to be joined by the coach. He is a former high school coach at Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan, Burnett, played college football at Abilene Christian, coached at Abilene Christian on two different occasions, was on the UT staff as a consultant, also as an analyst, multiple occasions for about 5 seasons. He's got a lot of things on his resume, and I can't name them all. He's a very accomplished man, but we're happy to call him the coach. Hey, what's going on, Coach? This is Coach Shipley joining us on Football Theory. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, great, Rod. How you doing, babe?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you joining. Also, you can catch Coach's latest ventures at shipleyranches.com. Go to shipleyranches.com to find out what Coach is into. All right, Coach, appreciate you joining us as always. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate the time. Before we get deep into some football conversation here, first give a shout out to our sponsor and also who has obviously supported Football Theory for a long time. So we appreciate Laura Baker. She is an accomplished Austin realtor. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. Give her a shout today at 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. All right, Coach, couple of things that I want to get into related to Texas football. First, we'll talk about some of the guys who are increasing and improving their draft stock. All right, throughout this draft process, the pre-draft process here. We'll talk about T'Vondre Sweat because at the Senior Bowl, at least the Senior Bowl practices, T'Vondre Sweat has turned a lot of heads. I mean, you would think the Outland Trophy winner wouldn't have to turn a lot of heads. He'd already be known, but he's turning a lot of heads. We'll talk about why that is the case. Also, we'll get into the latest news on the 40 Acres. They're losing their director of player personnel, Billy Glasscock. Coach, I know you're really close to the Texas program. You know a lot of the coaches. You're in that circle. You actually know Mr. Glasscock, Billy Glasscock. So I want to get your thoughts about them losing their director of player personnel, which is essentially these days your de facto GM at the college level. As a matter of fact, he is leaving to take the job at Ole Miss, and they're going to give him, I believe, the GM title at the University of Ole Miss. So we have two GMs now in college football. UCLA's got a GM named in title, and so does Ole Miss. We'll get into that, but that's essentially his role at Texas, leaving to take that same very role with a different title at the University of Ole Miss. We'll talk about that, and also a growing theory about coaching at the college and the NFL level that I want to get Coach Shipley's thoughts on. So we got a lot to dive into. Let's not waste any time. All right, Coach. I don't know if you've got a chance to watch these Senior Bowl practices or if you've seen some of the highlights of T'Vondre Sweat, but he is literally moving guys against their will. He's taking some of these offensive linemen on some of these highlights, and he's pushing them back 4-5 yards. I mean, it's crazy. Even pancaking somebody to a certain extent, putting them on their back. I think he's had a phenomenal Senior Bowl practice so far. Obviously, we hadn't played the games yet, but it's all about the practices in terms of you increasing and improving your draft stock. First of all, I want to get your thoughts overall about T'Vondre Sweat. There's been a lot of talk lately about Byron Murphy and where he stands in the draft, because I think he might be one of the first Longhorns drafted. But between both of these guys, I think you may have, two of the top defensive players overall in this upcoming draft, especially with the way that T'Vondre Sweat has performed at the Senior Bowl practices so far.
Yeah, it's been impressive to watch him, as he's been taking on some of the best offensive linemen in the country. And when you look at Byron and T Sweat, you're two very impressive guys, but their styles, their body type, they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, which really made them a great 1 and 2 punch, at Texas. You've got, T Sweat's probably 6'4", 360 pounds on maybe if you skip breakfast. And then, Byron's 6'1", a little over 300 pounds maybe. So, different body types. One of the things about Sweat that makes him, I think that makes him unique is that he has that innate ability to time his, when he's not getting pressure on the quarterback. He might be putting pressure on him, but he has that innate ability to time his jumps where he bats down passes,
yeah, he
field
does a good
goals,
job.
extra points. You know, he's had success in that area, and that's something that you work on. You know, you work on those things, but if you know, it's kind of like hand-eye coordination. You know, some people have it better than others. It's easier for some than it is for others.
Yes,
And
it
he
is.
obviously has that timing down. And plus, when you're 6'4" anyway, and you got the long arms, I don't know what his wingspan is, but you know, that's a pretty good mountain to throw over. You know, almost 400-pound guy. You know, and then he's reaching up in the air and jumping on top of that. You know, that really helps him a lot. He's been impressive, and you know, he's not a guy that's going to out finesse you with his pass rushing. He's good. You know, he's a bull rusher type guy. He's going to try to get you on your heels. And if you can't get to the quarterback, then of course he's going to, you know, do everything he can to try to knock that ball down. But then you've got, you know, Byron seems to be a little more talk about him. You know,
it is.
Yeah, he didn't have, you know, quite the honors, but you know, he's also. I'm not saying personality plays a very big role in these honors, but you know, Sweat, he's got more of an outgoing personality.
Yep.
When he makes a play, he celebrates a little bit more, and you know, he's you know, I think, didn't he catch a touchdown pass this year?
Yeah, he did toward the end.
Yeah. So you know, he's got a little more publicity probably than Byron. But the thing I like about Byron is, you know, Byron is Coach Sark called him a bulldog. You know, the tenacity that he has. His first step is so quick. He gets great penetration, which you can do because, as you know, when you're on the line, a lot of the battles are won as who can get underneath the pads of the other guy. Well, it's hard for a guy like T-Sweat to get under the pads because he's 6'4", you know, but you got a 6'1" guy, and you know, he can do a little more damage of getting penetration because he has such strong lower body. His hips and his legs are incredibly strong. He's got that really quick first step, and he's just a tenacious player. So each one of them, I think, will be high draft picks. You and I talked about this a little bit before the show. You know, Byron may, you know, probably going to go higher for whatever reason. Maybe he fits, but you know, and you made the point that the defensive linemen are, you know, some really well-paid guys in the NFL. There's a huge value on defensive linemen. And I think it could also come down for T-Sweat, whose scheme does he fit in well with? You know, somebody may have a scheme he fits in well with, but they're deep at that area. Another one may want more of a run stopper kind of guy because T-Sweat is the run stopper of the two. You know, although he's made some sacks, he's just going to control his gap in the line of scrimmage probably a little bit better than Byron. But both of them, it seems to me, I've watched them practice for a couple of years and was involved in the recruiting process with both of those guys. The one thing that they have that you can't coach is, well, you can emphasize it, is just great work ethic. They go full speed, you know, and their tenacity that they have in practice shows up in games, you know, because they love to practice full speed. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys. I hadn't seen as much video on Byron, you know, as I have.
He was out because of an injury, so he didn't participate in the practices because there was an injury of some kind. So the Longhorns only had two players that actually participated in the Senior Bowl practice. That was Christian Jones and that was T'Vondre Sweat. The rest of the guys, they pulled out because of minor injuries. But you're right. I love what you said, though, Coach, about T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy both. That Sweat is obviously a better run defender. Byron Murphy, I think, a better pass rusher from that interior D-line. But I think they're both underrated in the other aspect. I think T'Vondre Sweat's an underrated pass rusher. I think Byron Murphy's an underrated run defender. It's going to help both of those guys. And, you know, we were talking about this before the show, and I went and looked it up because I thought, man, these guys are going to increasing their draft stock. They're improving their draft stock. Right now, I saw a mock draft, and I'll look at any mock draft, but, you know, some are more credible than others. CBS Sports, Chris Trapasso had a mock draft where he had Byron Murphy getting drafted number 5 overall to the to the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh, line of scrimmage. They just hired the GM, Joe Ortiz, from Baltimore. Baltimore, lines of scrimmage. We know how that operation and that organization is run. They build it from the inside out. So that could happen. Number 5 overall, that is really, really high. Really high. But I would say Dane Brugler, who also loves him some Byron Murphy. He had Byron Murphy at number 16 overall in his latest mock draft, or one of his latest mock drafts, and he loves him some Byron Murphy. So, I mean, that is a big jump, 16 to 5, but a lot of people have him as one of the top defenders taken in this draft overall. So his draft stock, even without him working out, coach, is already starting to improve, at least based on some of the draft analysts. And if you look at T'Vondre Sweat, just what he did in the Senior Bowl, hell, he's probably went viral more than any of the other linemen out there, and some of the other highlights he had in practice. His stock is improving. Here's the nugget that I had. We talked about this before the show. I went and looked up the top 16 highest paid defenders based on average annual salary in the NFL. 8 of the top 16, that's half of them, are interior D linemen. 8 of the top 16 are interior D linemen. You're talking about it's a bunch of different guys too, and a lot of different football teams, and for a lot of different reasons. But I went and looked it up. You got Aaron Donald, Quentin Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, Daron Payne, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, DeForest Buckner's in there, Javon Hargrave. I was shocked because then D tackle was not even considered a premium position. That's edge rusher, that's cornerback, and yet you're seeing a lot of teams pay D tackles a lot of money. I looked up the 12 highest paid defenders in guaranteed salary. 6 of the 12 are interior D linemen. So this is the thing, and here's my theory, coach, and it's actually a simple one, and I think the NFL stats back it up. If you go look at the NFL, there are 2 deep safeties numbers, 2 deep safety rates, which is the rate that they have 2 high safeties. It has increased every year. It's gone from 37% in 2018 to 44% in 2021. And you have a lot of teams that on early downs, they're having like 50% of their early down, first and second down reps and snaps are with 2 deep safeties. So you have 2 deep safeties, as you know, you can't really load the box. That means you're playing with a light box. A light box is when you have fewer defenders than you have blockers. And more, the NFL wants to play the light box because they believe that the passing game is where the most of the explosive plays come from. They're trying to limit explosive plays, and the passing game is more efficient. The old Bill Walsh quote, right? Bill Walsh believed explosive play margin, most important stat in football. Why? Because human error. If you have a 13, 14, 15 play drive, that is really tough to do because there's a chance human error among the 11 guys on your offense based on precision execution. One of those 11 guys is going to screw it up. They're going to have a missed block. They're going to have a penalty. They're going to run the wrong route, quarterback with a bad pass, whatever. All right. If you want to eliminate human error, you want to have shorter drives. To have shorter drives, you need chunk yardage plays, explosive plays. Most of those come in the passing game. That makes a 6-7 play drive, not a 13, 14 play drive where human error can come back to bite you in the butt. So defenses have decided, all right, we're going to let them run the football. We'll give them favorable numbers in the running game in the NFL, but we're going to defend the passing game, and we're going to defend against the explosive plays in the passing game. So we'll win the numbers advantage in the passing game, and we'll essentially invite them to run. And that way we'll force them to march the length of the field, and we'll just play red zone defense. More and more defense in the NFL built that way. The key to that is if you play with a lighter box, you need bigger bodies in the box so that they can take on more offensive blockers. T'Vondre Sweat, 365 pounds, 6'4", whatever he is, he demands a double team. He's a man and a half on defense. So essentially my light box, I can almost match the numbers advantage if you have to actually use 2 blockers to block my 1 defender, then the numbers advantage flips back in my favor, and I can play with a lighter box, which is what a lot of NFL teams are figuring out. And that's why they're putting a premium, even though it's not a premium position, on interior D tackles who can rush the passer, but also be stout in the run, because that way they can play with a lighter box and defend the pass with numbers in the passing game. It's happening all around the league. And I think that's why those young men, coach, are going to make a whole lot of money in the NFL, because they're the best 2 D tackles coming out this year.
Yeah, that's true. Defensive linemen, they are a premium. Even in college, we're trying, recruiting defensive linemen. It's tough. There's been times, when I remember working with Oscar Giles, and looking at high school prospects, and it's like, the state of Texas one year was really low. We didn't have any, for a long time. Everybody we were looking at was out of state. It was just a bad year for defensive linemen. When you look at a defensive lineman's mentality, the makeup, it's so much. They have to bring so much more to the table than an offensive lineman. They've got to have quickness. They've got to have strength. They got to be mean. They got to love contact. They got to have that drive. It's just, after you get blocked 4 or 5 times and on your pass rush and you don't get close to the quarterback, a lot of people are just like, man, I'm wasting my time trying. But those guys got to go back and bring it every down. And it's just hard to find guys that have that athleticism that you need on the defensive line to be able to go horizontally on the line of scrimmage and make plays, run guys down, as well as contain a quarterback, even sack a quarterback, have that timing we were talking about. How many offensive linemen could jump up and bat a ball down? I don't know.
The timing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a whole different skill set. It's an offensive lineman plus a lot more. And so, of course, I always like to have those. I like to recruit offensive linemen who would make good defensive linemen, but I didn't let them go to defense.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another football theory broadcast right there. We'll touch that one at another time. But it is going to be interesting to see where those guys land in the draft. And either way, I think I'll be shocked if we don't have the top 2 defensive linemen taken in the draft.
Yeah, definitely the first 2 D tackles taking it, because they're unbelievable. And like I said, I think they're impressing the scouts now even more so behind the scenes, because it seems like their draft stock seems to be improving. So kudos to T'Vondre Sweat. See what he does in the actual Senior Bowl, but the practices are what matter more. And my man Byron Murphy, whenever he gets a chance to work out, a lot of these scouts really excited to see what he brings to the table. All right, let's move on to, I guess this is bad news, or at least it's unfortunate news for Texas. Texas is going to lose their director of player personnel, Billy Glasscock, who's been with Sark building this roster since he got here, and has helped him recruit top 5 classes in 2024, 2023, and 2022. He is actually leaving to take a role as the GM, the general manager for Ole Miss, with Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin and Sark are friends. Can I ask you this, Coach? Strange, and I'm asking you about this. What about poaching coaching staffs? Sark credits Nick Saban for saving his life. Yet he still took coaches from his staff.
Yeah. And everybody understands that. And I guarantee Sark got a call. Sark got a call before that went down.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't do that. You give them a courtesy call. And really, as a head coach, I've never been a head coach at the college level, but, you want your coaches to be happy. You want them to, do well enough on your staff that people do want to come in and rob your staff of guys because of the success that you've had and the job that they've done. So, it's a catch-22 for a coach. You get a coach that does a great job on your staff. Yeah, some people are going to want him, and even player personnel, when you build the roster that they've built, people, they want some of that, on their staff. So, and really, I'm assuming the general manager is somewhat like, chief of staff. I know that was the first thing probably when Tom Herman came in first time I'd heard of chief of staff on the UT, on the Texas football staff. But, they're kind of the almost like the athletic director of football,
Yeah.
they answer to one person, they answer to the head football coach, and they take care of all the stuff that the head football coach needs him to take care of. Fill in the blank. It could be anything. So I don't know if he's going to be more of just overall. All the people, all the support staff answer to him. The recruiting staff answers to him. The academic staff answer to him. Wait staff. I mean, everybody. It's kind of a buffer so the head coach can stay focused on his job and let that guy take care of the day-to-day stuff that the coach doesn't need to be, messing with. I've heard some head coaches actually work for one head coach in college who said, I don't want to know about it unless, it can affect my job. If it can affect my job, I want to know about it. If it's not going to affect my job, y'all handle it, So, yeah, so it's nice to have a guy like that. I didn't work with Billy long. I was there a little bit on the crossover whenever Sark came in. I kind of stayed around for a few months and helped him, find my successor and get him trained up a little bit on what I was doing as at that time was the director of high school relations. But Billy's impressive. Obviously, the proof is in the pudding, the job that they've done. It's a little bit, it can be a little bit misleading. Sometimes they call him director of recruiting, you think, okay, well, this guy has got to have a great personality. He's got to be outgoing. No, this guy's behind the scenes. He's not dealing. When I was with Tom Herman, we had a great guy. Derek Chang was the director of player personnel.
Yeah.
Good friend, great guy. Derek is not going to win any personality contest. He's not going to, be the one you put in front of all your recruits. But nobody was going to outwork him, and he was one of the smartest humans I've ever been around in my life. And he was great at Urban Meyer. Basically trained him, when he was at Ohio State. Actually put him under Tom Herman, but he's been with some great staff. So like I said, he's not the kind of guy that contrary to what some people may think, is the face of the program with recruits, even though that's kind of their department. It's really more what you were talking about, building that roster and understanding, visiting with the head coach and the coordinators on, how many high school kids we need to take, how many, here's where we're at with our numbers. And then really, along with his recruiting staff, getting a head start on those young kids, those 26 kids, those 27 kids, and just trying to get them on the radar early and just spending tons of time watching that film and working closely with the staff, knowing what their needs are, and then he'll probably have somebody on the staff who, I know that's the way Sark did it, who would be in charge of offensive recruiting and another guy be in charge of defensive recruit personnel, and one guy would sit in with the offensive staff and the other guy would sit in with the defensive staff and just make sure that they understand exactly what they're looking for. And then it's those coaches, once those guys have been targeted, it's a coach's responsibility, obviously, to recruit him. Nobody on the staff other than full-time on the field coaches can go out on the road recruiting. Anybody can recruit when you're on campus, but when you're off campus, it's just the full-time coaches that can go out and recruit. So they're the face of the program with recruiting, but a guy like Billy works so well behind the scenes with the coaching staff to put together that roster, and it's very impressive. My understanding, there's a guy on staff there that I worked with for years. In fact, when I was there in 2013, we hired him as a student assistant. But John Michael Jones is his name, JM we called him, and he is another guy behind the scenes, hard worker. Always, he did a great job helping me put together. I was in charge of the walk-on program, and he did a great job putting together a great, incredible list of guys for us to try to go after and actively recruit walk-ons. He's very smart, innovative, outside the box thinker. But I'm hearing some stuff about Brandon Harris possibly being a guy that might move up. Brandon played for, I think originally played for Tom Herman and Urban Meyer at Ohio State. Maybe I'm not sure. I think he was with him at Houston, possibly too. But I've always kind of thought Brandon. I may be wrong, but I thought maybe his goal was to be an on-the-field coach. So I don't know if that's not his goal, then he would probably be a good hire. If that is his goal, I can't see Sark moving, with him to take over that. If his goal is to be an on-the-field coach.
Yeah, I actually don't know. And I do think he may be the front runner. I think he was a LSU QB, if I'm not
You're right.
mistaken.
Right.
Yeah,
LSU.
yeah. He was
Yeah.
a quarterback for LSU.
Tom recruited him
Yes.
at Ohio State, but he went to LSU. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Exactly
And
right.
he actually got an offer from Sean McVay to be on Sean McVay's staff in 2021 as an assistant quarterback coach and declined it. I don't know how many people are declining coaching offers from Sean McVay, because everybody knows getting on Sean McVay's staff, that puts you on a meteoric rise in the coaching
Yeah.
community. And so I think he got a chance to be an on-field coach, passed on it because I think maybe he wants to be in the personnel department.
Okay.
And I don't know. Why else? If you want to be an on-field coach and Sean McVay offers you the chance to be an assistant quarterback coach, do you pass that up?
Yeah, no, you don't pass that.
You don't pass that up. Only reason you pass that up is you don't really want to go into on-field coaching. You might want to go into the personnel area. Yeah. You might want to go into, a front office position, essentially. Because I remember when he passed it up, and I thought to myself, that was in 2021. Sean McVay was still hot. He was hotter than hot. I'm like, who passes that up? All of Sean McVay's assistants were getting jobs all around the league prematurely. That was to me, that was eye-opening. Stayed at Texas. He might be the name to look at as a possible in-house promotion. And I almost wonder if that's why Sark was, kind of cool with just letting Billy Glasscock move on to a GM role with Ole Miss. He's like, no, I got a guy. We've been working on. I got a guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't realize that. I had left the program at that time, so I wasn't aware of that. But Brandon's he's an impressive guy. He does a really good job. He was really instrumental when I was there on campus recruiting stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think you know as well as I do, guys in situations in programs like Sark, they've always got a short list.
Yes, they do.
Not just player personnel, but every position coach, every athletic trainer, academic, the head assistant athletic director for academics. There's a short list of everybody on the staff. I promise you. And so, well, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes with that. But I appreciate the job Billy did. He was. You never heard much about him, and you don't hear much about those guys because they're certainly behind the scenes and they're not talking to, on three and people like us. They're not talking to us. They're just behind the scenes, but the job they do is invaluable.
And speaking of, him becoming a GM, there are two official GM titles in major college football now. UCLA hired a general manager. They're done trying to they're done trying to promote the facade or the illusion that it's college sports and amateurism. They just said, nah, man, you're a GM. You're not a director of player or personnel. No, you're a GM. You're not a director of recruiting. You're a general manager. It's becoming more like the pro game. And now Ole Miss has done it. Basically hired a general manager. How soon till Texas football has a general manager, Coach?
Well, I don't know if it's tit for tat. Chief of staff. They do have a chief of staff. When I was there, it's Fernando Lobo, who was great.
Yeah,
in fact, he
I know
went with
Urban
Meyer to the NFL for a while, and now he's back at the University of Texas as assistant athletic director. He was phenomenal, and I would have called him a general manager. He handled everything. Everybody answered to him. There wasn't any part of the program outside of what happens on the field that he wasn't over and had his hands in. And that's the way. It just takes so much load off of the coach, and he can go to one guy and say, "Hey, man, I got to meet with the AD. I can't make it. Can you go? Whatever." I mean, he's that level. Can go to the AD and just kind of be the liaison sometimes or whatever. So anyway, I don't know. Exactly what that means, general manager, but if it's chief of staff, then I can understand that, and Billy would be great at that.
Yeah, I imagine there have been a lot of guys who have basically had the role of a general manager. They just haven't had the title, and I think that's a new thing in college football, certainly. All right, before we get out of here, Coach, and he said, I like to pick your brain about a lot of different things, and I'm sure in some way, form, or fashion, this will come back to Texas, but there is a belief that you're going to start seeing a lot more college coaches leave to go to the NFL because of the current climate, NIL, transfer portal, a lot of these unchecked, unregulated changes, no guardrails, no checks and balances. Jeff Hafley, a Boston College head coach, has been named as the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. That's one coach leaving. There's talk that Chip Kelly, once again, has interest in the NFL, and that Dan Quinn, who's the new Washington head coach, may look to Chip Kelly as his top guy. Chip Kelly also interviewed with the Raiders. We know Jim Harbaugh's leaving for, I don't know, for other reasons. He's an NFL guy. What do you think about the belief, the theory that more and more college coaches are going to see the NFL as attractive because it's all about ball, that we don't have to worry about, the politics of college football and the dysfunctional nature of college football right now, because you have all these changes, but the NCAA does not really have control. They don't have a vision or a plan. Albert Breer said this: the reality is the lifestyle of college coaches, because of the transfer portal, NIL, and the climate in recruiting, has made it so more guys are willing to make sacrifices to get to the NFL. I don't think Jeff Hafley will be the last major college coach to do so. Pete Thamel said Hafley's reasons for taking this coordinator job are rooted in both the overall state of college football and the opportunity to work for the NFL. He wants to coach football again in a league that is all about football. College coaching has become fundraising, NIL, and recruiting your own team and transfers. There's no time to coach football anymore. Matt Miller said, talked to a college coach this week who said life in the NFL is so much better than college now. We're all trying to get to the league. What are your thoughts? Is this real, or is this just some perpetuated narrative and propaganda that has caught fire?
I think it's very real. Another thing that, is very obvious, the youth movement going on in the NFL.
That's true.
Used to be old guys. I mean, they just recirculate, and there is certainly a youth movement in the NFL. A lot of coaches, you'll have a young guy that'll be named a coordinator or a head coach, and I never even heard of him.
Yeah.
They're not in the spotlight like you are in college. If you're an NFL coach and you do something maybe a little shady or whatever, no, it's not a big deal. In college, you're still considered the mentor. You're still considered, somebody that the players look up to and respect, and you want to set a good example and all those things. But I think there's so much to that because of the things that you were talking about. No recruiting, and recruiting is sometimes you got to babysit a kid for 2 years. And Mac Brown used to say, getting him to commit's the easy part. Keeping him is the hard part, So you got to kiss babies, you got to hug mamas, it's just, and some people, Mac Brown's a great example of that. He loves that kind of stuff. I mean, if he doesn't love it, he hides it well, because that's just his thing. And some guys are just more into that. I love college football so much more than the NFL, just more excitement and just, development of players and the recruiting and all of it. But even though it has gotten the water has been muddied somewhat by the transfer portal and the NIL stuff. But I think another thing that a lot of people don't think about is, I know that the 5 years I was at Texas, probably at least 9, maybe 10 months out of the year, you're working 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Because you go from, in June, you're starting getting ready, for training camp. Then, you obviously through the season, you're going 7 days a week. Then as soon as that's over with, you got recruits in every week. You're on a road, then you got recruits in. And then if you're lucky enough to play in a New Year's Six Bowl, I mean, you got you're back on the road recruiting again, in the signing day. And now they're getting ready. They still got recruits coming in. There'll be a dead period. You may have a little bit of time off, but not much. And then the next thing you know, you're in spring ball, and then you're spring recruiting. Then you got your summer camps, and you got kids coming in the middle of all that on weekends with unofficial visits and all these things. So it's a beatdown now. It is a beatdown. In the NFL, you truly get time off.
Exactly.
I mean, and even as a college coach, when you're off, you're not really off. You're always on. hey, I got this kid coming in, he just passed through town, he wants to come visit with you, where you at? Well, I'm in the Bahamas. Well, I need you back because we need you, you're the DB coach. We need you to visit with this guy.
Yeah.
So you're always on call. And in the NFL, my understanding is that when you're off, you're off,
You
don't got to babysit guys. It's just relationships aren't as important in the NFL. I think we're seeing with the Detroit Lions that it probably more important than people thought it was because his players love him. They love to play with him. And that's a big deal. But I just know.
And he's hired all players, coach. He's hired players. Remember, most of his coaching staff are former players. Yeah, he's hired like NFL players, so they kind of all get it. Yeah.
But you've been in the league, and my boys told me the same thing. It's one of the different things is about when the NFL, when practice over with, you all go home. You don't hang out in the dorm. You don't, and in the off season, you don't hang out. Working, doing off season together. Everybody goes their separate ways. So do the coaches, and that really is nice to have a downtime and not be let your player personnel staff, and general manager and all those people take care of the draft. I know they're involved in it to a certain extent, but you don't got to recruit those guys. And when he gets to the NFL, it don't matter if they don't like you, they don't like you. I'm sure there's tons of people that hate their coach, and their coach probably hates him. But it's business. It is all business.
Yep.
And so you don't have to worry about, this guy's going to transfer portal just because, I was, I hadn't been treating him good or I hadn't been whatever. No, none of that stuff matters in the NFL. So it is pure football. And, but, some of them just love the excitement and everything that goes in with college football. I do too. And one thing that we probably didn't mention that's very obvious too, you don't got to mess with the big money donors. You don't got to mess with the alumni. You don't got to mess with lettermen, making them feel welcome, any of that stuff.
None of that. None of that
PR stuff. You're not involved in any of that stuff. It's all about what did you win. And plus in the NFL, you're a 500 coach. It's not, you're a 500 coach at University of Texas or A&M or Oklahoma. You're probably going to be looking for a job if it happens, more than once. But in the NFL, it just seems to be, there's not that many, how long has it been Don Shula and the Dolphins since anybody's gone undefeated through the whole entire season? That was what, in the 70s, I think, maybe. So
the Patriots had undefeated regular season in 07, but they lost in the buzzer. But you're right, it doesn't happen. You don't go undefeated in the league. That's not the league is made for you to go 500.
If you're 500, you're probably okay. And if you're not okay, somebody else is probably going to hire you. That's just the way the league works. Look at Cliff Kingsbury. He gets fired at Texas Tech and then gets a head job with Arizona Cardinals.
Well, that's because Cliffy knows quarterbacks. He's about to get hired again as an OC because Cliffy knows QBs.
Right.
The NFL is all about quarterbacks. That's why those young guys are getting the jobs, because the young guys, they have the ability to rehabilitate, resuscitate, and be able to maximize quarterback skill sets. It's a big thing, especially that Sean McVay, Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan coaching tree there. All right, good stuff there, Coach. Before we get out of here, once again, give it a thought, give a shout out to our sponsor, Laura Baker. We appreciate her. She is an accomplished Austin realtor. Laura Baker and Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. Give her a shout today at 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Thank you to Laura Baker and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams. All right, Coach. Great stuff as always. I appreciate the insight. Sorry I kept you so long. I do it all the time, but we always have such a good time. It just flies by on us, Coach. Flies by. Thank you guys out there for listening and watching another edition of Football Theory. We'll be back next week to talk more Texas football. And until then, hook 'em.